with little things on the top of them. People trying to find ways of solving a problem with a piece of kit that's worth billions of pounds, and then the spin-off is that in your kitchen you've got non-stick saucepans. I just think it's wonderful. I love science, but it's so far from my own world.
All right, we have time for one last question.
Who's got the best one?
I don't know if it's the best one or not, but I loved that Five Doctors reboot in 2013. I thought it was hilarious to watch. How much of it was ad-libbed? How much of it was on the fly? It looked like you had so much fun making it. I wondered if it was as fun for you guys doing it as it was just to be able to watch it.
The answer is yes. I had more fun doing that than almost anything I've ever done. I have probably seen my Doctor Who's 3 times. Once when it first came out, second time when I had to record the commentaries for the DVD version, because I've forgotten what happened. And various, maybe another time doing something else, but I've never thought I must sit down and watch myself as Doctor Who. I've watched Five-ish Doctors 5 or 6 times, because it makes me laugh. And it all came from Peter Davison. I have to say, even though I take the mickey out of it, and he does me, that he came up with a brilliant idea and executed it. And he had the chutzpah to take on the BBC when they were a bit obstructive at times. And he did have David Tennant on his side, of course. Having the most popular doctor in the family does help. But he rang me up and well, no, it started at a convention, I think, because as the 50th anniversary drew near, we would say to each other, no, I haven't done that. And it became obvious, and I think I knew from the word go that we weren't going to be involved. It's to construct a story that's good enough to justify the presence of all the doctors, as well as allowing the current doctor to have his time in the sun. They tried it before and it didn't work, you know, and the 5 doctors collapsed because Tom wouldn't do it. It was all right, but it had to be readjusted, and multiple doctor stories are difficult to do. So we realised that we weren't wanted on voyage, as it were. And Peter had done some, he'd sent a film to Gallifrey to justify his absence. He was supposed to go to Gallifrey, he couldn't go, so he made a little film for them which they showed at Gallifrey. And it was, I've seen it, it's very funny. It's Peter sitting in a dressing room of a theatre in London where he was performing in Legally Blonde?
Legally Blonde.
Yeah. In Legally Blonde, yes. And he's looking to the camera saying, "Hi guys, I'm sorry I'm not with you this weekend, but as you can see I'm in a stage show here in Britain, Legally Blonde, and I'm sitting in my dressing room here waiting to do the next show, but I'm recording a good luck message for you." And the door opened and in comes Susan Sheridan, who was the star of the show, and who said, not Susan Sheridan.
Yeah, it was Susan Sheridan.
No, she's not called Susan, she's called something else Sheridan. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
She plays Lucy Miller alongside Paul McGann's Doctor.
Sheridan Smith.
Thank you.
We were both wrong, yes.
I can't be right all
Sheridan Smith saying, "Peter, what are you doing in my dressing room?" It was a luxurious dressing room. Peter would, commandeered it to do. "Go back to your own dressing room," so the camera follows him to this really small, poky little dressing room at the end of the corridor. And then it cuts to him sitting by a roaring log fire in an opulent lounge, saying, "I'm sorry about that, I was interrupted, pay no attention." Anyway, and he continued with the message, and the door opens, and in comes David Tennant.
Oh, yeah.
Saying, "Peter, what are you doing in my house?" And then it cuts to him in a house which was considerably less opulent, which is his own house. And all the way through, it's him having the mickey taken out of himself, which is very funny. And it was all his own idea, and it's great. And people who have a sense of humour, I always think that anyone who can laugh at themselves is basically all right. If you can't laugh at yourself, you've got problems. So having, thank you, having done that, he had an idea of doing something similar for the three of us, trying to get into the special. And that script evolved. And he sent it to us at various times, and we adjusted it. It was going to be the 5-Doctor reboot, because Tom was a bit slow at responding and then declined. And Paul said yes initially to being fully in it, and then became less and less available. That turned out to be because he'd already, when he said yes, he didn't know, but subsequent to that, they'd asked him to do the regeneration scene that he'd never done. So he said yes. He wasn't allowed to tell us. So he was, to be fair to him, afterwards he said, "I'm sorry guys, I just couldn't tell you." But we kind of incorporated that into the film, with him, on the phone saying, no, he's busy, he's doing a film, he's doing all that. And most of it was Peter's. There are little bits here and there that came from suggestions, and it's impossible to stop Sylvester doing stuff, like putting his hat on top of the sheet and all that. But most of it was properly scripted. He had a lot of trouble until the BBC suddenly realised that this was unstoppable, and then they all wanted to be part of it, and including having to write, what's his name, current producer?
Stephen Moffat.
Stephen Moffat into it. Because as everybody else was laughing at themselves, he thought he could allow himself to be laughed at too. Anyway, the end result, and it's Peter's shining light, is that I wish you'd do a director's cut, because in order to get it down to a length, some good stuff went. But it works extremely well. And the next question I invariably get is, what about a sequel? And we'd love to do one. But, two things. One, it would have to be as good or better. Because, a damp sequel, people say, oh, I prefer the first one. You don't want that. And you can't do the same thing again. So what would you do? We've had a few ideas, to be fair. And the other thing is funding, because we all did it for nothing. Everyone who was in it, there were obvious actual expenses, but all the creatives and camera guys did it for nothing, as a kind of nod to Doctor Who. You can't ask people to do that again. So it would probably have to be crowdfunded. I suspect we'd get the crowdfunding. And I have to say, all modesty aside, I think the three of us have a dynamic which works really well. This great big me, this little Sylvester, this perplexed Peter, and it's just, it works. And I'd love to have another go at reviving that. I'd really love it.
And on that bombshell, we're going to bring the panel to a close, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Colin.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you over the weekend.